Greetings, my friends. Please make certain that you are still subscribed to this channel because every day I'm hearing from other people that they have been unsubscribed without their knowledge by YouTube. And if you are not subscribed, please consider supporting this channel. We need you. Thank you. Greetings, my friends. I am Dictor Van Doomcock, the future ruler of Earth. Earlier, I reported on a leak allegedly from inside Disney or Lucasfilm, providing details on the power struggle between Kathleen Kennedy and Jon Favreau for the future of Star Wars. In that video, I discussed how the tension between these two camps arose over The Mandalorian, and particularly over who was responsible for creating Baby Yoda. Kennedy reportedly coming up with the idea of The Mandalorian protecting a child, and Favreau proposing that the baby be of Yoda's species, if not actually Baby Yoda. My source claimed that Kennedy further became incensed when she was told work on The Mandalorian Season 3 scripts was already underway, with Favreau, Filoni, and George Lucas all contributing to the show without her knowledge or input. All of that information was relayed to me by my source, and I presented it as is, saying it should be taken with a grain of salt. Well, now my source has gotten me some rather explosive information that I again present for your consideration. Information regarding the fate of Boba Fett in The Mandalorian, and details regarding the female-centric Star Wars series that Leslye Headland is supposedly working on for Disney+. This information comes to me via sources claiming to be inside Lucasfilm or Disney through an intermediary who has given me valid information in the past. That said, I do not and cannot represent this information as true because I cannot independently verify it. I can only attest that I have received this information, and in discussing it, I am speculating about the implications of these leaks if they turn out to be true. All that said, treat everything you're about to hear as unverified rumor and take it with a grain of salt. In my previous video, my source claimed Kathleen Kennedy had said of The Mandalorian, "I'll have it my way or I'll burn this silly nonsense to the ground." Well, my friends, if what I'm about to tell you is true, and that's a big if, then the match is already lit and Kennedy is moving in to start the fire. It has been announced that Boba Fett will be seen in Season 2 of The Mandalorian. That much is officially acknowledged. What has not been reported is Kennedy's intention to not only influence Boba Fett's role in The Mandalorian, but to twist the character to fit her own agenda and further the brand of identity politics she's been trying to sell since Disney acquired Star Wars. So, what is the fate of Boba Fett in The Mandalorian? And what exactly is the nature of the female-centric Star Wars series former Harvey Weinstein assistant Leslye Headland is going to be working on for Disney+? According to my source, a few days after the call with Iger where Kennedy discovered work was already proceeding on the first script for Season 3 of The Mandalorian, Kennedy rallied her people with an email summoning them to a mandatory meeting, saying, "If you don't show up for this meeting, you might as well start looking for a new job." Kennedy wanted to make her move, wanted to impose her will on the Star Wars franchise yet again, and this is what I'm told she and her people came up with. Since Boba Fett is going to be in The Mandalorian Season 2, Kennedy reportedly decided that if she gets her way, in Season 3, Boba Fett will take his helmet off and he will be revealed to be a woman. My friends, if I laugh at any mortal thing, 'tis that I may not weep. I'm laughing because this is the state of Star Wars now, where we have to examine and discuss the most heinous leaks imaginable, because things have gotten so bad, literally anything can be true, no matter how awful. A year ago, if I had told you space horses would be galloping across the surface of a Star Destroyer, you'd have thought me insane. Well, the fault lies not in ourselves, but in our Star Wars. Things really are that crazy, and that is not the fans' doing, so we can be forgiven for questioning everything at this point. We have people creating Star Wars who care nothing about tradition or canon or fans. They see Star Wars merely as a vehicle for their propaganda. At this point, you may be asking, so was Boba Fett supposedly a woman all this time? Evidently not, but the details here are nearly as insidious. This, my source claims, is how Boba Fett being a woman will be explained if Kennedy gets her way on this. After Boba Fett takes off his/her helmet in The Mandalorian, we will see a flashback to Boba Fett crawling out of the Sarlacc pit, only to die in the sand. A bunch of Jawas scavenge Boba Fett's armor, and then we see Boba Fett's armor being subsequently acquired by Sabine Wren, a female Mandalorian from Star Wars Rebels. My source claims the plan is to have Sabine Wren take Boba Fett's armor, become Boba Fett, and her subsequent adventures as female Boba Fett will lead into an animated show on Disney+. This is allegedly the series that Leslye Headland will be working on. Well, isn't that delightful? I hope this isn't true. I hope this is disinformation or a mistake or an aborted idea that has been or will be abandoned. The problem is, given Kathleen Kennedy's agenda, this makes a lot of sense. Disney Star Wars has been all about girl power, Disney princesses with lightsabers. The Force is female, and there's a new sign on the Star Wars clubhouse that says no boys allowed or wanted. Boba Fett is a beloved character from the original trilogy who looms large in myth and canon. Boba Fett was going to be featured in his own standalone Star Wars story before Solo bombed so badly that Bob Iger put the films on a moratorium, and the Boba Fett movie became The Mandalorian. Retconning Boba Fett into being a woman all this time may be too large a leap even for Iger to make, but this is the next best thing as far as Kennedy is concerned, the path of least resistance for Kennedy's female-centric agenda in destroying Star Wars. Boba Fett, for all intents and purposes, is his costume. Outside of the EU, little is known of this character, and that's part of his mystique. If a woman buys that costume and puts it on and goes around representing herself as Boba Fett, in essence, she becomes Boba Fett in the minds of a whole generation of viewers. This is yet another example of reaching back into Lucas's original Star Wars and mutilating it, transforming Lucas's work into something it never was, all for political purposes. Everything in Star Wars now must center around women. That is Kennedy's aim. Whereas Favreau and Filoni seem mainly set on making some good stories, the other side of this power struggle is looking not to make Star Wars, but make Star Wars different. And therein lies the problem. I have some questions regarding these alleged leaks. On the one hand, I feel skeptical that Disney would want another series about a Mandalorian bounty hunter. That seems crazy and counterproductive to me, since it would, in a sense, be competing with The Mandalorian. On the other hand, I can see Kennedy wanting to do this because it would be competing with The Mandalorian. As counterintuitive and counterproductive as this idea clearly is, it would allow Kennedy to essentially make her version of The Mandalorian and further compromise Lucas's original vision for Star Wars by yet again revamping a classic character into something he never was, taking yet another male icon and appropriating it, subverting it in the name of feminism. In a sense, it would allow Kennedy to beat Favreau at his own game, since in her mind, her version of The Mandalorian would be superior, and she would, in her mind, finally get the credit that is her due. If this leak is true, and I cannot represent that it is without further verification, so do take it with a grain of salt, Kennedy and Headland would make this new series a rebuttal to The Mandalorian, a rebuttal to the idea of original Star Wars, and yet another middle finger to 50-something fans who just want to enjoy a little Star Wars. I suppose that if this Boba Fett series was animated, that might be seen as sufficiently different from The Mandalorian to get it made, but honestly, this idea is bizarre and very disappointing. If there is any hope at all for Star Wars moving forward, and I'm not convinced there is, it lies on the side of Favreau and Filoni and George Lucas. So long as Kennedy is in charge, that galaxy far, far away gets farther away from us every day. From the center of the earth, this is Dictor Van Doomcock bidding you all, my friends, stay angry.